Alexis Lafreniere comes up clutch for the Rangers in a 4-3 overtime win. Has he officially arrived? And what was going on with the refs? All this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 938 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. So I want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, big win for the Rangers. Obviously, they just keep rolling. They just keep finding a way to get the job done. They pay back the Blue Jackets for a defeat earlier this season with a dramatic come-from-behind win. Alexis Lafreniere was all over this game. He ends up tying the game with 11 seconds remaining. Clutch goal there and clutch in the shootout as well after Panarin and Mika both failed to score in the shootout, which you're not going to see that every day. You got to bank on at least one of those two is going to put the puck in the net during a shootout. But Lafreniere picks them up. He scores. Jonathan Quick stops all three of the shooters that he faces in the shootout. And the Rangers, once again, get another candidate for best win of the season. 4-3 victory for the Blue Shirts. And Alexis Lafreniere coming up huge. And we can't go a second longer without pointing the spotlight back at him. Coming off of his first 3-point game of his career, you kind of wonder what's he going to do for an encore. And he had quite the encore, did Lafreniere. This time he ends up with 2 goals, including one that tied the game with 11 seconds remaining. And then, of course, he ends up scoring in the shootout. I saw a tweet. I forget who posted it, but somebody, they showed a video of Lafreniere scoring in the shootout, and they said, this is a hat trick in my book. And yeah, I mean, he did put the puck in the net 3 times. Obviously, it's not going to count as a hat trick. But regardless, what a stretch here for Alexis Lafreniere. And it's possible that he's finally becoming the player that we were all hoping and thinking that we were drafting when the Rangers took him first overall back in 2020. You don't want to jump the gun here. He's gotten hot in the past where you start to think like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the true breakout. This one feels a little bit different. And it's just because he's playing with consistency. He's playing consistently good hockey. The fact that he's out there with Artemi Panarin, I think, has really helped him. And clearly, he is not bothered by moving to right wing. It just feels like he's more noticeable. He's skating better. He's all over the ice, whether the Rangers have the puck or not. So great stuff all around from Alexis Lafreniere. Looks a lot more explosive and just going out there and cutting it loose and being allowed to play the kind of hockey that he can play. And he's up to now 7 goals and 4 assists in 14 games. He is third on the Rangers in goals. Third on the Rangers in points. Only Panarin and Kreider have him beat in both of those categories. So he's number 3 in goals, number 3 in points. And we might as well go right to the big finish of this game, the end of the regulation. I'll also then take you through a little bit of the overtime and the shootout as well. We're talking about Lafreniere, so we might as well focus in on those big moments of the game because, like I said, he was all over the ice, making big plays during these sequences in the game. So Rangers down by a goal, 3-2. And how we got here is a story in and of itself. Don't worry. We're going to talk about the officiating and a bunch of other stuff as well. The Rangers didn't have the best start in this game, which was unlike them. But we'll get to all that good stuff in due time here. But Rangers are down by a goal, 3-2. They pull their goalie with 2 minutes left. And this was right after Jonathan Quick made 2 really nice saves. Right before he headed to the bench, he came up big with the final 2 saves that he would make in regulation in this game and prevent the Jackets from taking a 2-goal lead, which at that point, you're pretty much giving the win to the Blue Jackets if they get up by 2 goals that late in the game. But he comes up with 2 clutch saves. And basically, as soon as he made these 2 saves, the Rangers picked up the puck and Jonathan Quick headed to the bench. This was once again with about 2 minutes to go. And the Rangers, I was curious to see who they would go with because we haven't really seen a lot of this where the Rangers are down by a goal late in games. I mean, they've been winning so much and they've been playing with a lead for such big chunks of this game that we're not used to seeing this situation where the Rangers have to pull their goalie. So I was curious to see who the Rangers would go with, and they went with the 6 that I thought that they would go with. Basically, you've got the top power play unit, minus Adam Fox, and obviously Erik Gustafsson in his place. So you've got Panarin, Mika, Kreider, Trocheck, and Gustafsson. Gustafsson's your one defenseman out there, and then also Lafreniere. And it was great to see him out there. Those are the 6 players that given who's available right now, those are the 6 that belong on the ice. Those are the guys that are going to make things happen. Those are your biggest offensive threats. And they did a nice job here. For a while, they were kind of just moving the puck around the perimeter. And part of the reason for that is, I don't know if the Jackets, this is their system and this is what they usually do. The announcers made mention of this as well. Basically, all 5 of their skaters were kind of collapsing and kind of just playing in deep near the goalie. Nobody was really, coming out all that far away from the crease and the center of the ice there. Nobody was putting any pressure on the puck. And I guess the reason for this is you can block a shot. You can, get into some passing lanes and intercept some passes, or at least disrupt some passes. So it makes sense when you look at it that way, but I don't know, man. If my team is up by a goal late in the game, I want to see a little bit more aggression than this, because they basically allowed the Rangers to just possess the puck and do whatever they wanted with it. There was no pressure. The Rangers didn't have to be in any particular hurry to do anything. There was nobody in their face. They could kind of just work the puck around the way they wanted to. And when you've got 6 players as dangerous as the 6 that the Rangers have on the ice, there's a very good chance that team is going to be able to take advantage of a situation like that. And that's what they did. It took a while, but you've got Trocheck winning a faceoff, which, again, he's been big time on the faceoffs, and he seems to win the clutch ones as well. But a lot of passing around the perimeter, like we were talking about. Mika Zibanejad, one-timer, goes a little wide. Mika was a little off with the one-timers in this game, but this one goes wide. Then you've got a shot deflecting into the netting with 21 seconds to go. So Rangers win another faceoff. Panarin takes a one-timer. The save is made. Mika once again gets the puck back to Panarin. Panarin's in the center of the ice near the blue line, takes a shot from there. It winds up on the stick of Kreider. Kreider's right in front of the goalie. And I think a lot of players on the Jackets and probably Merzlikins assumed that Kreider was going to go for the stuff in, try to turn around and just jam it home kind of thing. But to Kreider's credit, he saw Alexis Lafreniere on the side there, the right side of the net, slides the puck over to him, and Lafreniere puts it home, stuffs it in from the doorstep. Merzlikins gets a piece of it, but not enough. It goes in, tie game, 11 seconds left. Just a clutch goal for Alexis Lafreniere. Nice to see him coming through in a big spot like that. That's another thing. Lafreniere, not only is he scoring a lot of goals, he's scoring a lot of goals in some big spots. It feels that way. They're down by a goal and he ties it, or he gives them the lead, whatever the situation might be. And perhaps no bigger goal for Alexis Lafreniere all season than the one he scored here. Once again, 9 to score at 3 goals apiece. And just an awesome play by Kris Kreider. He deserves a lot of credit for that as well. We go to the overtime, and like I said, it was the Rangers had the better play, and they had a couple chances where you thought they could win it. Erik Gustafsson put a shot off the crossbar. Mika and Kreider were out there. They were making some good passes and trying to set each other up for the winner. They had their opportunities. It just didn't go. And on the flip side of that, I don't feel like the Jackets, it's 3-on-3, so there's always going to be a couple of chances for each team if it goes the full 5 minutes. But for the most part, I thought the Rangers defended well in the overtime. And like I said, thought they had the better play during this 5-minute stretch here. So you go to the shootout, and Artemi Panarin does not score. Johnny Gaudreau hits the crossbar, so we'll take that. Mika Zibanejad does not score either. Patrick Laine not able to score. Jonathan Quick with a nice save there. He fights it off. Then Alexis Lafreniere comes up 2 for 6 in his career, and he goes slightly wide to the left and then just makes a nasty move. He's coming back to the right, puts it to his backhand, and basically just flips it over Merzlikins' arm. Looked like it went just under the crossbar, just got over the goal line there, and he scores, and the Rangers now lead the shootout, and it comes down to Texier. He's got to score to keep the game alive for the Blue Jackets. He's unable to do so. Goes wide to the right, comes back to the left, and Quick makes a save. He gets a piece of it, and the puck basically flips into the air, lands right on top of the net, and that's it. As soon as it lands there, the play is dead, and Rangers win. Dramatic win. Wasn't always perfect. Like I said, there were a couple of things where I thought the Rangers were a little bit shaky early in this game, losing some 50-50 pucks, which is not like them, and we're not playing as well defensively. We're not as sharp with the puck in this game as we've seen in some other games either, but we'll get to all that in a little bit. While we're talking about Lafreniere, we might as well go ahead and kind of put a bow on this section of the episode by also discussing the first goal that he scored in this game. This one starts when Artemi Panarin steals the puck in the neutral zone. He springs Vincent Trocheck into the offensive zone. You've got Trocheck passing to his left to Lafreniere on the other side of the net. And once again, Lafreniere shoots, and Merzlikins gets a piece of it, but not enough. Still goes into the net. And at that time, that gave the Rangers a 2-1 lead in the second period. Unfortunately, the Jackets answered back immediately with 2 quick goals and went up 3-2, and that kind of set the stage for everything that was going to happen later in this game. But again, just cannot be happier for Lafreniere that he's contributing the way that he is. And he's not just somebody that, like, we talk about, like, depth scoring and secondary scoring. He's one of the main reasons. He's one of the driving forces right now why the Rangers are playing as well as they're playing, why they're winning as many games as they're winning. He's been big time. And I think that also is reflected in the fact that Laviolette has him on the ice with the goalie pulled, 6-on-5. He has him out there while the Rangers are looking for the equalizer. And he also put him out there as the third shooter in the shootout. You never know for sure. You got to go Panarin and Mika in a shootout. You never know for sure who the third shooter is going to be. But I swear this is true. When the shootout was happening, I always I take my notes and I try to write down what everybody did in the shootout. It's easier to remember that way, obviously. But after the Jackets failed to score on their second attempt, we weren't sure who the third shooter was going to be for the Rangers. And I typed into my notes Laffy before I even saw it. And then, of course, Alexis Lafreniere was up there. And that's awesome that, Peter Laviolette has a feel for the game. Obviously, hey, this kid's hot right now. He's obviously a skilled player, and he's feeling it right now. He's finding a way to put the puck in the net. So why not go with him? It doesn't have to be – they don't have anybody else that's set in stone. There's nobody that you have to go with as your third shooter there. So why not go with the guy that's hot and even more of a confidence boost? And, hey, he delivered. I mean, at this point, I'd be shocked, if the next game goes into a shootout, if Lafreniere doesn't get a chance, I'd be very, very surprised. You never know. Maybe somebody else has a big night and that player's hot and they go with him. But yeah, Lafreniere coming up big here in the shootout, and happy to see him being given those opportunities in the big spots in the game. The other subplot of the first goal that Lafreniere scored is that Artemi Panarin had an assist. This, of course, means that he ties Rob Gilbert 14 straight games to start a season with a point. And it's funny because by the time Panarin got to 8 or 9 games, I thought to myself, I didn't say it on here because I didn't want to jinx it, but I thought to myself, he's going to do this. Like Panarin is going to tie this record. He is going to catch Gilbert. Panarin's just been on fire. It's just hard to picture a game right now where he doesn't get on the score sheet. And at this point, 14 straight games, see how long he can keep this thing going. It's obviously been a heck of a ride thus far. So we'll see how much longer Panarin can ride this thing out. But yeah, there was really just a feeling yep, he'll get there. It will happen. Anyway, going to keep everything rolling in just a second. We're going to turn our attention to just some bizarre officiating in this game. I don't know what was happening there, but I think it was, frankly, an embarrassing night for the officials in this game between the Rangers and the Blue Jackets. And we'll get to that in a second. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. We would like to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. And for the everydayers, haven't even talked about this yet because that's how crazy this game was last night. That's how much there is to cover. But I'm thinking in our next episode, we'll save this in our next episode until our next episode. There we go. Kris Knoblauch, no longer the head coach of the Hartford Wolf Pack. He accepts a job with the Edmonton Oilers to become their new head coach. So a big congratulations there. We'll talk about Knoblauch and him moving on to Edmonton. And we'll also talk about Steve Smith, who has taken over as the head coach of the Hartford Wolf Pack. But that's for tomorrow. For right now, look, officiating, let me just say, these guys have a difficult job out there. This is not an easy sport to officiate. I think it's easy to forget that. I include myself in that. I think a lot of us sometimes forget everything's moving a million miles an hour. You don't always have the best sight line. There's bodies whizzing in front of you this way and that way. Not an easy sport to officiate. It's not easy, but they got to be better than they were last night. And I'm including Toronto in the Situation Room in this conversation, not just the Zebras on the ice, but the ones in Toronto as well. And I have an honest question for you guys, and I'd like an honest answer. And I'm not trying to be, sarcastic here. I'm really not. I actually want an answer to this question. When is the last time a goal has been reviewed and it went the Rangers' way? I'm not one for conspiracy theories, and I'm not even trying to push a conspiracy theory here. I'm just kind of in amazement that it never seems to go the Rangers' way. Certainly not this season. Every time the refs have gone to take a look at something, they're over there for 20 minutes like it was last night or however long it might take, and then they come back and it's always bad news for the Rangers. Whether it's, a call that initially went in their favor, it gets overturned. If it's a call that initially did not go in their favor and there seems to be overwhelming evidence to overturn it, they don't overturn it. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where sooner or later you feel like the pendulum has to swing back the other way, right? The Rangers have to get a couple of these in their favor. But no, I'm genuinely asking everybody, can anyone remember the last time, something was reviewed and it went the Rangers' way? Because I'm struggling with that. I don't think it's happened this year. Maybe at some point last year. I don't know, but certainly not in this game. You had Will Cooley being robbed of yet another goal. He was robbed, if you guys remember earlier this season. Blake Wheeler, made a pass toward Cooley, and it went off of Cooley's skate, went into the net, and he scored. And then they review it, and they said it was a distinct kicking motion. And, that goal didn't come at a big time in the game. That would have made it 5-0. It was getting pretty late. They were still up 4-0. The Rangers won that game, but still, that should have been a goal for Will Cooley, and it was not. And then in this game, and you know what? While we're on the subject of that, I do want to mention this too. So that was not a distinct kicking motion. The one where Cooley, it went off his skate and into the net, or rather, that was a distinct kicking motion. But you had that goal scored by Andrew Mangiapane of the Calgary Flames against the Rangers last season, where it looked like he was winding back to kick a 50-yard field goal, and he knocked the puck into the net on what looked like a pretty distinct kick, but that goal was allowed to stand. And then Will Cooley, that one doesn't stand. So, the NHL has a problem here. That they have a serious problem because I don't think they know what conclusive evidence is. I don't think they know what a kick is. I tweeted that out, maybe about a week or two ago, just kind of joking around that the NFL doesn't know what a catch is. The NHL does not know what a kick is. And there's just too much inconsistency across the board when it comes to the NHL replay system. And I don't want to see a situation where there's a game 6 or a game 7 of a playoff series determined by just a shoddy review process where nothing is consistent, nothing really makes any sense, and whatever your eyes are seeing, they're going to go completely against the grain and call it the other way. And I'm not saying that this is all targeted against the Rangers. I don't believe that it is, but it's just not good right now. There's too many things. Same thing with suspensions. It feels like they just spin the wheel and, this over here warrants a 5-game suspension, but that's only one, even though the thing that's one game looks 10 times worse. I don't know. There's just too much inconsistency right now. But back to this game. So Will Cooley scores from a difficult angle. And, he's along the boards there, puts it inside the post, somehow squeezes it between Merzlikins and the post. It trickles into the net, and the light goes on. The fans start cheering, and I realize that doesn't automatically mean that it's a goal, but the guy behind the net is looking for that kind of thing. And the ref isn't there. He's not really in position. And then he goes over, and then he puts his arms up, and then announces that it's going to be reviewed. And they review it for what felt like an eternity. I should have been timing it. I'm really not sure how much time it took, but they were there forever. And the longer this goes on, the more I'm thinking they are not going to call this in the favor of the Rangers. I've seen this movie too many times. This is definitely going against us. And they come back, and sure enough, just a bizarre explanation, because they say that the puck was frozen, and that's why it's not a goal. When you watch this replay, the puck is clearly over the line at one time or another. That's undeniable. The puck at one time or another did clear the line. It was in the net. And the idea that it's not going to count because the puck was frozen, the ref never blew his whistle. The ref, by the time the ref blew his whistle, it was like a solid 3 seconds after that puck had already crossed the goal line. And I know sometimes they'll say, well, the ref was intending to blow his whistle, so for that reason, it's no goal. But not in this situation. There was way too much time that went by between when the puck went over the line and when the ref blew his whistle. And if you're going to say that that's the reason why the goal does not count is because the whistle blew or the puck was frozen, why did it take 20 minutes to review this and come to that determination? That's a judgment thing. That's not something where you have to see anything. So I don't know what they were looking at for that long if they're going to then turn around and just say, oh, no, the puck was frozen. Well, then what took so long? You don't have to look and see whether the puck crossed the line or not if your determination is that the puck was frozen. And I saw everybody was trying to come up with their own theory. Kako came by after Cooley had already put the puck in the net, and he kind of took a whack at it, trying to make sure that it was in. And some people were saying that maybe it was frozen before that. I don't know. Again, this this whole process just sucks right now. It's not good. The NHL needs to tighten this up, and they need to do it quickly because, again, I do not want to see whether it's the Rangers or really anybody else. I hope it's not the Rangers involved in this, but I do not want to see a playoff series determined by this kind of nonsense where you're just flying by the seat of your pants during one of these reviews. Game 6 or Game 7 is in overtime, and something like this happens. That's not going to be good at all. And it's not the kind of attention that the NHL wants. You want the attention to be on all these amazing players and these fantastic teams and the game itself. You don't want the attention on the refs. And I probably already talked about this for too long, but we had to go through it because this is a bad night. And on top of that, a couple other plays here. We had the Kuraly hit on Ryan Lindgren. Those two were going at it earlier in the game. Lindgren was boarded by Kuraly here. They call a 5-minute major, and after Kuraly boarded Lindgren, you have Bonino jumping in there and jumping Kuraly. The two of them tussled for a little bit. They review this, and they knock it down from a 5-minute major to a 2-minute minor. And so for that reason, it only ends up being a 2-minute power play in favor of the Rangers because Kuraly got the 2 for boarding Lindgren. He also got the 2 for roughing Bonino. Bonino got 2 for roughing Kuraly. So it's a 2-minute power play for the Rangers. But the worst part about this for me, I mean, yeah, it was boarding, but when you see Kuraly approach Lindgren, it looked to me like he was raising his elbow. He basically uppercutted him with his elbow. And I'll be curious to see if the league does anything about this. Probably not because, they're asleep at the wheel half the time when it comes to this kind of thing. But yeah, I did not like the elbow. To me, that was the worst part of it. Kuraly's going toward Lindgren. His elbow goes flying up, and he catches Lindgren, under the chin or whatever it was there. Lindgren was, he left the game immediately and is considered day-to-day with an upper body injury. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that he can rest up a little bit during this break that the Rangers have and eventually, come back out there, hopefully as soon as the game against the Devils, because they need all hands on deck for that game. It's going to be a battle. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the officiating and these reviews and everything. And then this one didn't bother me as much as some of the others. But Trouba put a big hit on Marchenko, shoulder to chest. Watch the replay; it's shoulder to chest. Fantilli then challenges Trouba, and as Fantilli's approaching Trouba catches him with a fist. And I think that's the reason why Trouba got the penalty for roughing. Now you can argue this one. I would argue that they probably both should have gotten a penalty, Trouba and Fantilli, because Fantilli, that's the instigator thing. You should not have to fight for your life every time that you deliver a clean hit. And we've seen Trouba have to do that on multiple occasions, multiple times against the Flames alone last season. So I didn't really like the fact that the Rangers ended up shorthanded out of this, but I can at least understand this one a little bit, where Trouba was the one guy that actually threw a punch. But can you blame Trouba? Again, every time he throws a hit, somebody's approaching him, somebody else is attacking him and wanting to fight him. So he probably thinks, okay, I have to fight again. I knocked somebody to the ice with a clean hit. That means I have to fight. So he was probably ready for it. And, you go into kind of your instincts kick in a little bit and you want to defend yourself. And that's what Trouba did. Again, the punch, fine. Okay, I'll live with this call by the refs. The other two I thought were pretty egregious. And, certainly they have to figure out that whole goal review thing because it has not been good for quite some time. We're going to keep everything rolling just a second here. I want to actually debate whether this was the best win of the season for the New York Rangers. You could definitely make that argument. Kind of depends what your favorite type of win is. It's very subjective, but we'll talk about that in a second. Also going to heap some more praise on Erik Gustafsson. And just kind of wrap up today's episode and just enjoy what, again, was at least in the running. At the very least, it's in the running for best Ranger win of the season. We'll do that in just a second. But first, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Mika Zibanejad could score 50 goals. The New York Rangers could hoist the Stanley Cup. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Panarin or Lafreniere or Mika or Fox or Igor will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Ranger fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so that you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you will get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, go ahead, keep everything rolling here. And, we could debate, was this the best Ranger win of the season? In terms of theatrics and just late game heroics, I think certainly it was. And you could even kind of throw in the subplot of Alexis Lafreniere. Is this his official arrival in the NHL? The 3-point game before this, and now coming up huge for the Rangers in this game. Again, it depends how you look at it. They fought through some adversity. We mentioned the shoddy officiating and everything that went against the Rangers in that regard. Obviously, the Rangers are missing a lot of key players right now. No Igor, no Fox, no Hedl. You ended up missing Lindgren for part of this game as well. Obviously, they were trailing in this game, came back to tie it with only 11 seconds remaining. So that's the positives. As far as why this might not be, you could argue that they weren't always sharp in this game. They didn't have the best start. I mentioned that briefly a little bit earlier in today's episode. We've been praising the Rangers for their fast starts, but I found this interesting. John Giannone, he's between the benches. He mentioned that usually early in games, Laviolette kind of just lets it unfold a little bit. He lets guys kind of do their thing and kind of sees what kind of game it's going to be. And then he'll kind of speak up a little bit. But apparently he was on the Rangers early in this game because the Rangers weren't skating their best. They were giving up some odd man rushes. Jonathan Quick kind of leaving him out to dry a couple of times, a little bit sloppy with the puck as well. So apparently the players heard it from Peter Laviolette a little bit. The other thing that went against the Rangers in this game, or that you could count against them, I suppose, is that they were not sharp in the second period. Again, the second period seems to be the one where the Rangers are struggling the most. I mean, it's obviously a little bit of a nitpick when you consider the fact that this team has not lost a game in regulation in almost a month now. But be that as it may, the second period seems to be the one where they're not quite as crisp as the other two periods. So there's that as well. A rough middle 20 minutes for the Rangers there. And I thought also not enough support for Jonathan Quick. Quick was awesome in this game. Stopped 25 of 28 shots. He made 2 big saves. I mentioned this at the end of regulation, right before the Rangers ended up tying the game, and right before Jonathan Quick headed to the bench for an extra skater. That was huge right there. He also made a big-time sliding save at the end of the second period where he moved from his left to his right, kicked out his pad, kept the Ranger deficit at just 1 at the time. But, overall, again, I thought the Rangers kind of hung him out to dry at times. There were a lot of instances in this game where the Jackets had second chance opportunities. And really, when you look at the goals that the Jackets scored in this game, that's how a lot of their goals were scored, if not all of them. The first goal was after the Rangers failed to clear their zone. The second goal, the Rangers, they had some trouble getting the puck out of their zone. Blake Wheeler eventually passed into the neutral zone. Fantilli picked it off, comes back in, and he scores. Then 19 seconds later, face off in the Rangers zone. Rangers can't get the puck out of their zone when they should have been able to, and the Jackets keep it in at the blue line. You get a shot, you get a save, you get a goal on the rebound. So a lot of instances in this game where they just didn't give Quick the support that he needed. They weren't playing as well in front of him. They were turning the puck over in their own zone, which you never want to do. And a couple of instances, like I said, where it seemed like the puck was going to come out of the Rangers zone, and it just didn't. And you got to credit the Blue Jackets a little bit for sticking with the play and, forcing the issue a little bit. But too many times where, I thought the Rangers should have been heading in the other direction, and instead they're kind of hemmed in their own zone and, giving up second chance opportunities to the Blue Jackets. So not ideal there. But the bottom line is this is a team that continues to find ways to win. And once again, even though the Rangers are down in this game, did anybody really give up? Like in the third period, down by a goal? There's almost a part of you right now that feels like, man, we got them right where we want them. We're going to come back. We're going to figure out a way to get this tied. And that's an awesome feeling, knowing that this team can win with offense. They can win with defense. They're playing a lot better in overtime and the shootout this year than they did in years past. They're getting great goaltending. Usually they're getting great defense, not so much in this one. They're getting awesome special teams play. I thought, they got a lot of goals 5v5 in this game as well. So, again, just good stuff all around. The Rangers are always just finding a way to get it done. And it seems like they're getting contributions from up and down the lineup. Also got to give some more props to Erik Gustafsson. We've done this quite a bit lately as well. But he was really good in this game. And he had a big hand in the first goal that the Rangers scored. You've got the... So first of all, you had a rush into the zone by the Rangers. Mika and Kreider with a little bit of a give and go. That was stopped. But then the Blue Jackets go the opposite way, and they got a player driving toward the net. Erik Gustafsson stands him up, separates him from the puck. Puck goes behind the net. The Blue Jackets recover it. They're trying to pass along the boards behind the net are the Blue Jackets, and Gustafsson goes back there, picks it off, and then makes a quick pass up to Mika Zibanejad. And Mika plays the puck into the neutral zone, leads Blake Wheeler on a rush. Wheeler picks it up. Wheeler passes to his left to Gustafsson. Gustafsson's got the puck in the middle of the ice, moving toward the net. I think a lot of people thought that he was going to shoot. Instead, passes back to his right to Chris Kreider. Kreider bangs it home. And big goal there. Tied the game at 1-1. And what can you say about Erik Gustafsson? Basically made 2 or 3 strong defensive plays on this shift and then jumped into the rush and ends up with the primary assist. You cannot say enough about the job that this guy has done. He ends up with 26 minutes and 18 seconds of ice time. That was second among Ranger defensemen, only to K'Andre Miller. And while we're on the subject, I also have to give a shout out to Artemi Panarin because he ended up with 28 minutes and 2 seconds of ice time, which I believe was a new career high for him, at least in the regular season. So awesome stuff all around. But as for Gustafsson, I do predictions at the start of the season. One of my predictions for Gustafsson this season was that he was going to end up getting an in-season extension. We saw that last year. Jimmy Vesey got an in-season extension. So too did Ben Harpur. Harper's, of course, now with the Hartford Wolf Pack. But I was thinking, like, Gustafsson, I think he's going to fit in nicely with this team. And it could be a situation where, Drury kind of dangles a 2-year deal in front of him. Gustafsson, he bounces from team to team, from one season to the next. He never can find a permanent home. You dangle a 2-year contract in front of Gustafsson. Maybe he takes it. Maybe he jumps on it. The problem now, and granted, it is a very good problem to have, but the problem now is Gustafsson is playing so well that he's not going to settle for like a 2-year deal for 6 figures. He's going to be looking for more than that. And I can't speak for Erik Gustafsson, but for somebody that's changed teams as much as he has, I would think he might want to at this point have a long-term deal or something of a long-term deal with one team or another. And I just don't know that the Rangers are going to be able to afford that. And if he keeps playing as well as he is right now, and again, good problem to have, but if he does, he's going to price himself right out of the Rangers' range. So I don't know. If you're Drury, do you approach him now before he really takes off and really has an amazing season? Or do you almost try to wait until he cools off a little bit? Do you do it at all? I mean, maybe the Rangers, there might be some people listening, and maybe the Rangers themselves that want to see one of the homegrown defensemen eventually step in there, become the 6th defenseman. That's all well and good, but the way Gustafsson's playing right now, he's been fantastic. And it's wild because they get Gustafsson on a 1-year deal for $825K. Remember a few years ago, they got Patrick Nemeth for 3 years at $2.5 million a season. Pretty wild to think about. That was a $7.5 million commitment. This is an $825K commitment. So, yeah, Erik Gustafsson just exceeding all expectations. And I did think it was a nice pickup, but he's kind of blowing our minds right now, as is Jonathan Quick. So let's give Drury a little bit of props. I know there's been some mixed reviews on him over the years. Some Ranger fans get mad at him for certain things, but those look like 2 awesome pickups because Quick has been spectacular, and they've needed him to be in the absence of Igor Shesterkin. And Erik Gustafsson, again, looking like the absolute steal of this free agent class. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to have my hands full in the offseason when I have to try to rank the top 10 best Ranger wins of the season. There's already a lot of really strong candidates, and the Rangers are winning a lot of games, obviously. So good problem to have there as well. But figure we could pretty much call it there for today. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.